All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Starcade Media Studios with nobody. It's just you and I. Just like Bill Weathers said, just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Let's give it a try. Let's see if this goes well, guys. We've done this twice now in the last month. We had an absolute blast last time. It was just you and I. It was a solo act here from my side. But on your side, we're here, guys. We're together. It is a beautiful Saturday. Well, for some of us, it's Saturday. I like a little bit more of the rainy days. I don't like it when it's absolutely hot. So I very much enjoy what's going on in Kansas City right now, where it's cooled down just a little bit from the heat that we've just been liberally given over the last, what it feels like, 2.5 months. But nevertheless, we're here. We have a jam-packed show, guys. I have a jam-packed show for you guys. We have a lot to get to today. It didn't go exactly as I had hoped and planned, because today was a training camp day for myself, Shaggy Shane Williams, and Clay Windler of Red Tribe Cinema. We all went up there, as we do every single year together, just to kind of get an eye on the team. And we got about an hour and some change of practice in from our standpoint, and got to hang out with some friends, catch up with some great people that I'll talk about in a little bit. But as you guys know, if you're full aware of what happened over here in St. Joe today, we got absolutely just a torrential downpour. And it rolled over us like literally just like a downhill slope of snow and an avalanche. It was nuts. I mean, at 1 minute it's sunny, clear skies. I'm sitting here talking with Starcade's Noah Groniger, hanging out, talking football, chopping it up with him, getting some plans down for this football season. Next thing I know, we're looking up, and it looks like the end of days is coming our way, man. And next thing I know, we're all going to our cars, and the day's over, practice is over. So, needless to say, it was an interesting day. It was a fun day. But it could have went a little bit longer. But nevertheless, you guys know me. I got some notes. I got some takeaways of what I saw, and I'm really excited about that. I also know that you guys have a lot to talk about, which is why we're going to be opening up the conversation today, as we do every single day. If you're not already there, go to our YouTube channel, hit subscribe, hit the notification button, and also, more importantly, get in the comments. Let me know, guys. Give me your takes. Give me your thoughts. Give me your opinions. Whatever you guys got going on today, man, we would absolutely love to hear from you. We'd love to know what you guys are thinking about. And if you have any questions for me of what I saw at training camp today, what my takes are on various players, if I haven't already touched on it on the show, I promise you I will give you guys my honest opinion, my honest viewpoint on what I'm seeing from that particular player, that team, the sport. Whatever it is you guys want to talk about, that is your time. That is your place for you to bring that my way. But where I want to start the show in is what I still think is by far and away the biggest storyline in Kansas City when it comes to the Chiefs. We know that this team goes as far as where Patrick Mahomes is able to take them. And obviously, you know, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce being the duo that they are under Andy Reid's offensive scheme is what makes this team what they are. That is the brand. That is what ultimately decides games. But we all know that defense does win championships. And we also know that this team needed a defense, an improved defense from 2018 to 2019 for them to go from losing in overtime the AFC Championship to winning the Super Bowl. It was the fact that they bolstered their defense. And that was something that has rang true for a lot of different teams throughout the years, and in particular the greatest dynasty in the history of the NFL, the Patriots. They never won a Super Bowl without a top 10 defense. Tom Brady always had an elite defense to rely on, and Bill Belichick led the way on the defensive side, and Tom Brady did enough on the offensive side to get that done and win 6 Super Bowls together and go to 9 total. Well, the Chiefs are in the midst of making a similar run, if not a better run, and I don't say that lightly. I think that is something that now Patrick Mahomes has shown us that he is very much intending to do. That is what drives him, is to win as much as he possibly can in his career. And this stuff goes fast, and he knows that, and the Chiefs know that, which is why I'm still very confident that Chris Jones is going to be a Chief here for the next 3 to 5 seasons. I've already broke that down on the show several times, and I could break it over and over again. Today, I just want to lay out some facts as to why Chris Jones not only should get signed, will get signed, but why those that are out there doubting as to why the Chiefs should pay him big money are absolutely wrong. Let's look at career numbers here, because we know that this defense is very young. We know the Chiefs defense right now is currently constructed as one of the youngest defenses in the entire NFL outside of Chris Jones. Chris Jones is the only guy really on this defense outside of maybe Drew Tranquill, who's 28, that's even close to 30 years old. There's a lot of young guys on this defense. So we know that this defense is built for the longevity. But guys like Chris Jones are built for now and for the next 2 to 3 seasons to help you win as many Super Bowls as you possibly can in the present time and place. If you look at the rest of this defense right now, and there's some really good pass rushers on this team. You have Charles Omenihu, who's a proven player who played for the Texans and he played for the 49ers. If you look at George Karlaftis, a guy that's got a lot of promise, had a really good rookie campaign last year in 2022. If you look at guys like B.J. Thompson, who look like he's going to try to give it a shot, FAU, Felix Anudike Uzoma, the Chiefs' first-round pick. There's a lot of promise at edge. There's a lot of promise in this pass rush that just last year was second in the league in sacks, only behind the Eagles, who had an historic season at getting to the quarterback. But if you look at the rest of this team right now compared to Chris Jones, it's pretty terrifying. When it comes to sacks. In Chris Jones' career, he has 65 career sacks. Every other defensive lineman or edge rusher on the Chiefs has a combined 45 sacks. I'm going to say that one more time. Chris Jones by himself has 65 sacks in his career. Every other edge rusher or defensive lineman on the Chiefs' entire roster, not named Chris Jones, has 45 combined. Some fans believe that if the Chiefs pay Chris Jones, they won't be able to afford to pay guys like Nick Bolton, L'Jarius Sneed, Willie Gay Jr., guys like that fans very much love and very much believe are very much valuable pieces to this defense moving forward and helping them win more championships. But I'm here to tell you that is just simply incorrect and inaccurate. But even if it were true, no one can say with any honesty that any of those 3 players mean more to the Chiefs winning Super Bowls than Chris Jones. As I've stated in recent episodes on this show, Chris Jones is the only defensive player the Chiefs can't afford to move off of. Veach has proven that he can find adequate role players and starters and even star players via the draft throughout the last 5 years. So why would that change? Veach drafted McDuffie and Karlaftis in the first, Nick Bolton and Willie Gay Jr., Brian Cook in the second, L'Jarius Sneed and Joshua Williams in the fourth, and Jalen Watson in the seventh. All played major roles in the Chiefs winning Super Bowl 57. And what does Veach do right after that? He drafts potential replacements for L'Jarius Sneed and Willie Gay Jr. Both players who are in line for contract extensions. It would shock me far more if both Sneed and Gay got contract extensions in Kansas City than it would to see them both gone after the 2023 season. This is not only how Veach has been building his defenses, but it's how he's been building it all around that one piece that's still in place, that's been in place before Veach even became the Chiefs GM. And it's the one piece that can't be replaced. It's Chris Jones. And unless I missed it, Veach not only passed up on any player that he can even be considered a potential replacement for Chris Jones after 2023 in this year's draft, he has never drafted a player that matches that criteria because I think Veach knows what some of us know. And that's that Chris Jones is irreplaceable. Veach has had the same blueprint for over 5 years now. Andy and Patrick lead behind a stout offensive line with perennially great weapons like Kelsey to utilize, backed by a young, cheap defense around Chris Jones. Veach showed us from this very first draft how serious he was about that said blueprint when he took defensive players with his first 4 picks. It ended up being his worst draft class, sure. But since 2019, Veach has drafted 32 players, 21 of them were defensive players. That's 66% of his draft picks over the last 5 drafts. When it comes to building the defense, Veach will keep it as cheap as possible so he can continue to spend on quarterback, offensive line, offensive skill position. But that doesn't mean there aren't exceptions. And Chris Jones is that exception. He's a one-of-one unicorn player who is in the midst of his prime, displaying zero, and I mean zero, signs of slowing down or tailing off. This defense is young, cheap, and experienced, but most importantly, it goes as 95 goes. And if the Chiefs had plans of changing that, they would have shown us that months ago by trading Chris Jones and or drafting potential replacements over the last 5 draft classes. And they did neither. Veach has made his bed, and to lay in it may cost him more than he'd like to pay, but it's his only choice at this point. It's good business paying a superstar what they're worth. And Chris Jones is worth every penny. If you don't think Chris Jones is worth the money he's asking for, then you don't believe he is as great, as valuable as he actually is. I've seen so many people, excuse me, I've seen so many people talk about and back up the idea of Chris Jones becoming Defensive Player of the Year because he called his shot on Twitter just about a month ago. But how could you honestly believe that if you don't think he's worth money that it would take to have a Defensive Player of the Year on your team? There isn't a single player in the NFL better at that position than Chris Jones, and he just turned 29. The Chiefs could afford to and get away with trading off Tyreek Hill because they had Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Kind of a convenience on the offensive side, especially when you have an offensive-minded head coach. Not one on this current Chiefs defense comes close in value, and there is no way within the confines of reality that the Chiefs could replace Chris Jones, at least not for the next 2 to 3 years. It is a large dollar amount. Let's be real here. $30 million a year, which is reportedly what Chris Jones and his camp is asking for, is a high dollar amount. But so was Aaron Donald's extension last offseason. Well, I hate to break it to you because I know this pisses a lot of people off, but this is a reality check. Chris Jones is not only better than Aaron Donald, he's almost 3 years younger. It was one of the 4 biggest reasons why they got to 3 Super Bowls and won 2 in the last 4 seasons. And with 0 signs, yet again, of slowing down, there's no reason to think that he can't or won't continue to play a pivotal role in the Chiefs extending this dynasty. The Chiefs were able to trade away their superstar wide receiver, use picks they got into return to build a young, cheap defense and win the Super Bowl because they had Patrick Mahomes, they had Travis Kelce, and also Chris Jones. If all 3 of them aren't in the mix, they don't win Super Bowl 55 or 57. It doesn't happen. The Chiefs have known for at least a year that they were going to either have to trade or pay Chris Jones this offseason. If the Chiefs are going to trade Jones, it would have happened 4 or 5 months ago, guys. Not paying him at this point would be a massive mistake in every single regard. You ruin the relationship with him. You keep a $29.5 million cap hit, which means you have no flexibility whatsoever of adding any of these other veteran players that you're going to need because you're going to have injuries. We're already seeing the injuries in camp. This one extension not only keeps a top 10, top 5, top 1 defensive player in his prime on your roster for the next 4 or 5 years, but it also, like I said, saves you money in the long run. And it gives you the flexibility you need to add to your roster. And it keeps your superstar happy that's helped you win at the highest clip of your franchise's history. Chris Jones is arguably the best defensive player in the NFL, is at the peak of his powers with no signs of slowing down. He is a one-of-one player. The Chiefs know this better than anyone, which is also why I'm trusting them to get this extension done. Would I like to see Chris Jones in training camp right now? Yes. It would be good to see him out there. It would be good for the team. It would be good for the fans, the morale altogether, because Chris Jones is an igniter. He's a leader. He's an alpha. He's a guy you want on your team. He's a guy you want around you. He just makes everything better. He's a big guy, big presence, big everything, man. The dude knows how to bring it, and he's one of the best players in the NFL. The Chiefs know what they have on their hands. And if Brett Veach is the guy you guys continue to tell me to trust every single day, every single opportunity you guys get, to let me know and to remind me to, Lance, you got to trust Veach, then I'm going to trust that he's going to make a common sense move like paying a guy like Chris Jones. Yes, the Chiefs don't spend a lot of money on players. I don't anticipate they're going to give L'Jarius Sneed an extension. I don't anticipate that. You know what I do anticipate? I do anticipate that the Chiefs are going to give a guy at that position that is that valuable that kind of money, because that's what the market demands. If you guys look at spotrac.com right now, one of the most accurate sites when it comes to contracts, when it comes to market value, when it comes to all of those things, Mike Giannetti does an incredible job there. If you go and look at what he puts at the market value for Chris Jones right now, it is $32 million per year. $32 million per year. Chris Jones is asking for 30 reportedly. And more than likely, he's going to take a couple million less than that. But even if he doesn't budge, $30 million for a guy like Chris Jones that is better than Aaron Donald now and is younger, Aaron Donald, who's making around $32 million a year on his new extension, sounds like a common sense move to me. I get it. You guys want everybody to be on a discount contract. That's not how this league goes. And again, the Chiefs have been able to move off of guys in the past, will continue to move off of other guys in the future. But right now, you can't move off a guy like Chris Jones and expect things to work out, because that's not how this is going to go with this defense. Losing Chris Jones would significantly hurt the Chiefs' chance of winning a Super Bowl. If they weren't in a position to win a Super Bowl in 2023, I would say, you know what, it's probably best you trade Chris Jones, because you could get a plethora of picks. You can get a ton of opportunities off of Chris Jones. You can go and get maybe even a current player that's in a rookie deal that you can make, a wide receiver. You can go and make things happen with a Chris Jones trade. But the Chiefs are trying to win a Super Bowl in 2023, and right now they're current favorites, as they should be. They're trying to defend a title. And I think that's what's going to happen here, guys. I think that the Chiefs are looking at opportunities to... Here, I'm going to turn this off. I'm sorry, guys. There we go. I know, this is bothering me too, trust me. The Chiefs are looking for opportunities to keep their guy Chris Jones, because they know what they have at Chris Jones. And Chris Jones knows his worth. That's the most important thing. You have to look at it like your job. You have to look at it like... You know what you've been doing for 6-7 years for your company. And you know what your market value is. And you're still not even asking for that. You're just asking to become the second highest paid player at your position, even though you know you're the best at what you do. That's a pretty fair deal. And I think the Chiefs would know that. And if your bosses were fair, they would understand that as well. And they would respect that. It's called business. And Chris Jones knows what good business is. And he knows that he's helped this team win multiple Super Bowls and get to 3. And there's something else that I saw somebody say to me a couple days ago. I think it was on our Facebook page. They were saying that Chris Jones only averages 7.5 sacks per season in his career. Well, that is true. But what's funny about that is that's the exact same amount of sacks per game that Warren Sapp averaged in his career. Warren Sapp is one of the greatest players at that position in the history of the NFL. Warren Sapp had an historic Hall of Fame career. Chris Jones plays the same position. He does average 7.5 sacks. So you're using that as a negative on him when that was actually the average of one of the greatest players to ever play that position. Furthermore, Chris Jones only had 2 sacks in his rookie campaign. He was a slow starter. Since his second season, the man averages 10.5 sacks per season. 10.5 sacks at defensive tackle? Do you guys understand how historic that is? There are only 3 guys in the history of the NFL at that position that averages that for their careers, that played over 5-6 seasons. Chris Jones is in a very special category at defensive tackle. And this man plays all different types of techniques, plays defensive end, has played all over the defensive line. And when you have guys like Keandre Coburn, who I'm very big on, who I was watching very closely today at training camp, if guys like that are ever going to evolve, if George Karlaftis is going to take that next step, if FAU is going to be able to get anything off of the edge, these guys are going to need a guy like Chris Jones. That's just the facts of it, guys. If Brett Veach had drafted somebody that shows the signs that they could probably take the reins from Chris Jones and they're much younger and much cheaper, then yes, we're having a different conversation here. Then we're talking about the Chiefs playing, where, hey, look, Chris, we'll keep you on this 1-year deal, we'll franchise tag you or something like that, and then we'll try to trade you. But they've intentionally not done that. You guys can't tell me that's a coincidence, because it's not. The Chiefs know what they have, they know what they need to do. And to be honest with you, as much as I have to do it, I hate to do it. It's the Tyreek Hill comparison, because people try to pull comparison. Well, they won without Tyreek Hill, guys. You can win without Tyreek Hill because you have the greatest quarterback in the NFL, the greatest tight end in the NFL, and Andy Reid, an offensive mind, the greatest offensive mind maybe in the history of the NFL, all together. Chris Jones is not the Tyreek Hill of the defense. He's the Patrick Mahomes. He's the irreplaceable piece. And again, I would love to see the Chiefs get him on a discounted price, but it's just not in the cards. The Chiefs know this. And to be honest with you, this isn't really even coming down to the annual worth of the contract. It's not even about the $30 million, $32 million, whatever it ends up being. It's about the guaranteed dollars and the guaranteed years. That's what you really have to look at. And if I'm a betting man, Chris Jones probably wants 3+ years of guaranteed money. And the Chiefs probably want to give him 2 to 3 at most. And I understand both sides. So this is really just coming down to which side is going to end up getting more of the compromise. Who's going to be giving in more to the one side or the other? They need each other. Let's be real here, guys. Both sides need each other. Because Chris Jones' legacy only continues to build. His opportunities only continue to build with the Chiefs. And the Chiefs know that their defense, as currently constructed, have to have him if they want to win another Super Bowl here. They're not booting on the 2023 season, guys. So this very much tells me that the Chiefs are very much looking to get this done. It's just a matter of when, not if. And to be honest with you, after seeing what Joe Burrow just went through at training camp with his calf strain, and it looks like he's going to be out for almost 2 months. That's according to some of these reports. They're saying several weeks. I would be shocked if Joe Burrow starts the season, to be honest with you. And he's a guy that's about to reset the quarterback market and become the highest paid player in the history of the NFL. All of a sudden, it looks like Chris Jones is pretty smart to hold out. I was hoping that Chris Jones would come to camp and then hold in, where he goes out there, runs a few drills, and, I got a little tweak, I need to go sit down. And he's there, and then they can't, fine him for the $50,000 a day. But Chris Jones now that I'm looking at it, now that I saw what Joe Burrow is now going through, where he's not going to play another snap for at least a month, I think that Chris Jones made the right choice in holding out, because now he's putting all the pressure on the Chiefs. And Brett Veach is a great businessman. I could tell that by Andy Reid's press conference yesterday, it was very much frustrating him that Chris Jones isn't there, because more so I think Andy Reid doesn't like to have to answer questions like this repetitively. And I think that Andy Reid is ready for this to be over with. So just like I said, it's going to come down to what the guaranteed dollars are, what the guaranteed years are, and then we can see Chris Jones. I'm willing to bet that, because I thought this was going to be done earlier, so don't even take my word for it. I thought this was going to be done by late June, early July, because obviously I thought that the Chiefs were very much after D-Hop, and they were going to go after him and get that money freed up so they could pay it on him. Now that that isn't there and D-Hop's not there, that hurry isn't really in the midst anymore. I think that the Chiefs are going to get this done within the next 2 weeks, and then you'll see Chris Jones in camp at the very end of the tail end of it. And you could tell by some of the other veterans on this team, like Travis Kelce, that training camp is just not very much fun for these guys, because they keep making these deep pushes into the playoffs every single year. Travis Kelce's even admitted that the regular season, sometimes he's like looking beyond it. He's ready for the postseason, because that's where this team does their biggest damage, their most damage is in the postseason. Now we know this is a Super Bowl or bust team. Training camp can sometimes be a little difficult for these guys to stay engaged, and I saw some of that from Travis Kelce. I'd imagine it'd be the same for a guy like Chris Jones. Not saying it's right, not saying that these guys shouldn't be more focused or things like that, but you could definitely tell that these guys that are well ingrained in the system, these veteran players, they're ready to go for the regular season. I'm willing to bet Chris Jones is in game shape now. He's ready to go. I would love to see him in camp for at least a week or two to just get around the other guys, get some chemistry going. But I'm fully, without question, without any doubt right now, of the full belief that Brett Veach, Chris Jones, and the Katz brothers are going to sit down, get these dollar signs figured out, and then sign at the dotted line and be ready for a great 2023 season. So that's where I'm at right now when it comes to that. I do want to give you guys some Chiefs training camp takes, because I was out there, like I said, today with Shaggy Shane Williams, with Clay Windler, with some other awesome podcasters and content creators as well. I saw my awesome friend Kylie Manning, it's her maiden name, who with the Kingdom Cast. I saw my guy Chuck. I saw from the Kingdom Cast as well. I saw the Aftermath's CJ. I saw some awesome people out there today, man. It was awesome. Like I said, Noah Groniger was hanging out with us today on the hill that we were up on, the media hill. And I didn't even know that half of those people were going to be out there today. I'm just standing up there with Shaggy and Clay, and all of them showed up. I got to meet Kylie's husband, who was awesome. Got to kind of just check, just get caught up with everybody. That was actually the first time I met some of them in person. They're great people, and if you're not following their shows already, go and hit them up. Kingdom Cast, great people. Love those guys big time. It was awesome to finally hang out with them. And obviously the Aftermath, CJ and those guys, they know their shit. Great dudes. Noah and Clint, they have their Arrowhead Allies show. It's a Chief show as well here on the Starcade Media Brotherhood. You guys definitely need to be following these shows, because they definitely have some good content and good people for sure. So I was out there for about an hour and a half-ish before the end of days hurricane came through. But I want to give you guys some takes here real quick, and I'm gonna take this little sip real fast. Okay, it was more than a sip. So when I came out to training camp, it's funny, Kylie actually asked me the question. She asked me, what are you looking at today? And I was actually going to be looking at the tight ends and the defensive line today. Now, I know that everyone's focusing on the wide receivers and offensive tackles and things of that nature, and I totally understand why. And I was watching the wide receivers, and I had some takes on them as well. I have some takes on the offensive line. But first and foremost, I came in today wanting to see the tight ends and the defensive line, primarily for two reasons. One, I wanted to see if there's any progression from Noah Gray. Jody Fortson's obviously hurt, so we're not going to be able to see that from him right now. But I wanted to watch Noah Gray right now and see if he was actually going to take that next step, because I've been hearing people praising him to take that next step. And with Travis Kelce getting a little bit older, his snap counts are probably going to go down a little bit this year. I wanted to see what Noah Gray was going to do. We didn't get to see a lot of him today. I did see him catch a couple passes. He was running some sharp routes. So the tight end position was a little hard to gauge and pay attention to today, honestly, because they didn't really even do a lot of 11 on 11s before the rain started to roll in. I was paying attention to the defensive line because of the fact that, again, Chris Jones isn't there, and I want to see what these other guys are going to do. I was trying my best to pay attention to Keandre Coburn. They were on the other side of the field. I knew that by the time I got over there, they were going to switch fields, so I stayed right where I was at, and I was paying attention to the young guys. The one thing I love what Joe Cullen is doing is you can definitely tell that he is trying to get the young guys implemented as early as possible. And the biggest reason why is because these young guys don't have the luxury of just kind of easing their way into their NFL careers. These guys are going to be utilized early and often. They're going to have to be guys that the Chiefs rely on. Chris Jones or not. Now, Chris Jones, I do fully believe, will be here, and the pressure and the focus will be on him. But that's when these other guys are going to have to step up. And I think Joe Cullen, I think that Steve Spagnuolo is getting these guys ready and available to go. Mike Dana has a calf strain. I don't know how long that's going to sideline him. Hopefully it isn't a severe calf strain. But like I said about Joe Burrow, I mean, I'd be shocked if we see Joe Burrow, take a snap in preseason or anything like that. I'm willing to bet, if I'm a betting man right now, Joe Burrow is going to probably miss the first week or two of the regular season. Mike Dana might be in that same category. Mike Dana, this is a contract year for him. So it's kind of a big blow. Hopefully it's not as bad. Drew Tranquil had a strained neck. He was out there in practice, but he wasn't in pads. That was a good sign, though, that he was at least out there. He was suited up, but he wasn't in pads, so he didn't do a full participation in practice. But he's going to be fine. That's something that lasts maybe a week. So I'm willing to bet Drew Tranquil will be back. It'll be interesting to see what happened to Jody Fortson. I know he landed on his shoulder really hard in yesterday's practice. I don't know what exactly the extents are of his injury. They haven't really given us details, at least at this point. But I'm willing to bet that Jody will be ready to go for the season. He's such a talent. I would have a hard time believing that Andy Reid's not going to retain him or keep him. He very much likes keeping 4 tight ends. I think they're going to continue that trend. I was talking to CJ and I was talking to Chuck. And I'm still of the belief that the Chiefs are going to keep 6 wide receivers, primarily for the fact that Andy Reid has just never gone more than 6. And I think he's going to keep that extra spot from the fullback position. He's going to utilize that either at offensive lineman, defensive back, Running back, I think they're going to keep 4, so maybe it's that position that gets that extra spot, because I think Deneric Prince has more than proven himself worthy of getting a roster spot. I think that Isaiah Pacheco is more than safe, Jerick McKinnon's more than safe, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire will make the roster. Now that this is essentially his contract year because of the fact they didn't pick up his fifth-year option, I think that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to definitely make his spot. I didn't see him at practice today. I didn't hear anything either. I just know that I didn't see Clyde out there. L'Jarius Sneed wasn't out there either. Maybe they just got Veterans Days. I don't know. I don't know how that went down, but I just know that I didn't see them out there. But I'm not changing my opinion on anything. I'm not afraid to do that for the record. If I feel that I'm either wrong or even more right about something, I will lean into it or I will pull away from it. But I'm a little indifferent right now. I will say that I don't want to be a victim of circumstance or a prisoner of the moments. I definitely don't want to do that. And I definitely don't want to pay my bet to my guy Tom, Arrowhead Tom over there on the Kingdom Says podcast. I definitely don't want to do that either because I have a bet with him about Rashee Rice. But guys, I now see, watching with my own 2 eyes, up close and personal, I now understand why the Chiefs took this kid in the second round. He's physical. He's got all the abilities and all the capabilities. He's got reliable hands. He's a good route runner, got good hip movement. I think this kid could be very much something in this league. Now, I do reserve my right to hold my opinion on him in his rookie season because if we know anything, and something I've been telling you guys over and over and over again, rookies do not excel in Andy Reid's offense. It's usually year 2 and year 3 when they really start to take shape and become who they are. I don't think that Rashee Rice is going to have this huge season this season. In fact, I don't know if there's going to be a wide receiver that has a huge season this season for the Chiefs. I think it could be very much kind of like how most teams have a running back by committee. It looks like the Chiefs are going to have wide receiver by committee. Now, Patrick Mahomes loves to spread the love, so maybe that won't be a problem. My problem, though, is like I told Clay and Shane driving up to St. Joe today, my hope really is because we know that Patrick Mahomes is going to make these guys' jobs very easy. He's going to make everyone's job on that offense very easy. My hope is that these wide receivers do the same for him and make his job easy. Catching the balls that come their way, running sharp, clean, and crisp routes, not putting the ball on the ground. Just keeping their heads in the game, being alert. I know that young guys have growing pains, but a lot like the defensive line when I was talking about how some of these guys are going to have to grow up quick. A lot like the secondary last year had to grow up quick. These wide receivers are going to have to grow up quick because these are going to be guys that Patrick Mahomes is going to be relying on, guys. Whether Travis Kelce stays healthy or not, these dudes are going to have to be dudes that can take targets, can get opportunities to go out there and make big plays. I ran a poll this week on our Spoken Twitter account, or X account now. Apologize, Elon. But I saw that we had ran the poll about, it was a scenario we had built about the Chiefs. It's fourth down in the fourth quarter. Just enough time for one more play. The Chiefs are on their opponent's 15-yard line, and Travis Kelce's double-teamed. You can't get him the ball. Who are you throwing to? Who are you trusting that's going to make the play? Guys, I think the selections I had were Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, MVS, or another receiving player. It could be a running back, another tight end, another wide receiver. Guys, it was almost even down the board. It was like 26% Sky Moore, 27% Kadarius Toney, 31% MVS, 22% another receiver. It was crazy, and that I did not expect that. I was expecting everybody to vote on Kadarius, everybody to vote on Sky Moore, somebody like that. No, it was almost completely dead even, and there was literally like 700 and some odd votes. So that tells me that everyone is kind of being realistic with the way the wide receiver room is shaping up. I will say that, again, I like what I saw from Rashee Rice today. I hope that's genuinely who he is. I don't want to try to get up too amped up when it's guys that are barely touching each other out there in training camp. We got a long way to go before real game situations start to happen, before we see these guys go up against real pros on the opposite end. But I do like what I saw from the kid, and I definitely hope he can develop into something serious, because if he can break the mold, I was telling Kylie this from the Kingdom Cast today, if he can break that mold and become a star wide receiver from the jump and establish himself as that one rookie that really stood out from the rest of them in Andy Reid's offense, then I'm all for it, and I hope it happens. I don't expect it to, but I would love it very much if it did, because that's where we're talking about making Patrick Mahomes' job that much easier. And I will talk about somebody else, and I'm going to take another drink here because I'm getting prepared for this one. Justin Ross looks like a guy that's going to make this roster. I said it. I'm not saying that I'm picking him to make this roster. I made my prediction. I had him off the roster. I'm staying with that prediction. But man, guys, Justin's looking like he's developing. I'll say that. I saw some plays today that I can definitely see this guy's developing into a football player, a legitimate NFL wide receiver. I don't know if that's for real. I saw Junior Hemingway put up plays in the training camp and in preseason, things like that, and he ended up not becoming the guy. I saw some other guys that we thought were going to be promising that weren't promising at that position. Maybe that's Justin Ross. Or maybe this kid really is the truth. And my guy Shaggy Shane's been right all along. I don't know. I'm still of the belief there's going to be 6 wide receivers on this team. And if Justin Ross wows this team enough in training camp and in preseason, he will be one of those 6. That's all I'm going to say. What I saw from him today, I was impressed. I will keep it fair. I will keep it balanced. You guys know I've not been much of a believer in Justin Ross just because of his health and his availability, the lack thereof in both ends. But if this kid can look like that on a consistent basis from what I saw today, I want him on this roster. It's not even just that I think he can make the roster. If that's who he is and that's who he's becoming, I want him on the roster. I'd want him over Justin Watson. I think Justin Watson's making this team. Justin Watson made some plays today. I think that dude's milquetoast. Dude is as vanilla as they get. He's vanilla as ice. But he's a veteran, and the Chiefs trust him, and he's got a multi-year deal. So more than likely, he's going to make the roster. But, again, if Justin Ross can show that this is genuinely who he is and what he's developing into, I'm going to change my prediction. And I will say that Justin Watson's out and Justin Ross is in. But we'll stay tuned to that, and we'll make sure that that's where things are going. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I had to put that out there. I had to make sure that this is what I truly believe. I didn't even tell Shane and Clay this when we were on our way back. I said, you guys are going to want to tune into the show because I'm going to have some things that might shock you guys. But I kept that to myself, and I was ready to share that with all you guys. So that's where I'm at when it comes to the wide receiver room. When it comes to the offensive line, look, guys, I mean, they look good. It's hard to tell in training camp, though, because guys aren't really going 100%, and it's hard to tell sometimes what the offensive line really is made of. My biggest concern, without question, is Donovan Smith. What the hell is he going to be in this offense at left tackle? Guys, left tackle is maybe the second most important position on the Chiefs because it's protecting your investment in Patrick Mahomes, his blind side. And Donovan Smith did not have a good 2022 campaign. I know the Bucks were on the outs. I know that they were waning, from the Tom Brady era, slowly coming to a very slow and excruciating death. But I really hope that Donovan Smith can turn it around, because if he does, then this is going to be one of the best offensive lines in the NFL again. And my hope is if he's not an upgrade to Orlando Brown, at least be more of the same. Because you guys know how much I believed in Orlando Brown, how much more I think he will develop into a really good left tackle in this league. We know what Donovan Smith is, and a lot of Buccaneers fans feel he's washed. I hope they're wrong, because this offensive line is going to absolutely have to have him. Because if Donovan Smith goes down or he's not playing well, the Chiefs are one of those decisions away from Prince Tega Winogo taking over at left tackle, unless they want to finally utilize Jawan Taylor as a left tackle because they paid him like one. Then we're talking about something. Then we're talking about an opportunity. I don't know. All I do know is, guys, right now up front, Creed Humphrey, Trey Pancake, Papa Smith, and Joe Tooney are the best at what they do. And the Chiefs are shored up at the guard and center positions. They're going to be for years to come, because all those guys will be retained unless Joe Tooney decides to retire in the next year or two. But yeah, the tackles, I think Jawan Taylor, if he stays at right tackle, he's going to be great there, because he is great. I don't think he's going to be better than what Mitchell Schwartz was a few years ago with the Chiefs, but he's about as good as it gets, and the Chiefs paid him a lot of money, so I hope he's worth it, especially at the right tackle position where he's naturally from. And I'm going to say one more thing, and I'm going to get to you guys, because I know that I'm seeing the comments start to fill up a little bit. The secondary is going to be nasty this year. And yes, the defense does go as 95 goes, as in Chris Jones. But this secondary, I'm telling you guys right now, is only going to get better. The development of Trent McDuffie, Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, L'Jarius Sneed being on a rookie or a contract year, it's hard not to get excited about what this secondary is going to do. That doesn't even mention Brian Cook or Justin Reed or Mike Edwards, who made a play in training camp yesterday. Like, I hope you guys are ready. I think this secondary is really going to pay dividends because we saw how much Brett Veach invested into that position group last draft and in this year in the offseason. I think it's going to pay off big time. This is going to be a very nasty secondary. I'm saying that now. And then that's not even mentioning Najee Johnson, Nick Jones, any of these guys, these fringe players. They're all making plays. They all look good. I think the Chiefs are going to be extremely deep at cornerback, at safety, and at defensive back. You're going to see a very nasty, very deep secondary for the Chiefs this year. I hope you guys are ready for it. All right, let's get to Speak It. Let's get to you guys because I want to hear from you guys. I want to give you guys my thoughts and my opinions. Let's see here. What are you guys all talking about today? I missed you guys, man. It feels like it's been a week or something. Is that a Golden Girl shirt? Damn right that is. B. Arthur in the house. Betty White was my former wife. Well, I'm lying. We dated for a while, but she didn't want to commit. Ruben, yes, I am solo today, brother. Thank you for being here with me, for making me feel less alone. How much is Jones asking, Lance? Well, again, according to reports, Chris Jones is asking for about $30 million a year. I don't know what guaranteed dollars he's asking for. I don't know how many guaranteed years he's asking. That hasn't really been specified. All we've been told is it's $30 million a year. So that's all we know at this point, man. Got a Facebook user. I don't know the name. Hopefully, John Harrison at the bottom. I always check now with John Harrison. He says, I've heard Tim Grunhard and others in the media say the Chiefs can't pay Chris Jones around $30 million a year and win. And fans have said, let him walk. They can't pay that much. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year. Does everyone know that Jones' team cap hit last year was 29.4, which was almost 30? If they sign extension, they can throw some money down the road. They can mold the cap to have room. John, see, that's where you're just making too much sense, brother. You're looking at it from an honest perspective, whereas people see $30 million and they think, oh, the Chiefs can't pay somebody like that and continue to win, when they don't realize how caps work. That when you pay a guy an extension, it softens the cap number. It softens the cap hit. So if the Chiefs, this year, Chris Jones will have a $29.5 million cap hit. If the Chiefs were to give him an extension, that drops off about $15 to $20 million of that. Like, think about how much that would help the Chiefs right now, guys. Knocking off over 50% of a cap hit. That's humongous. So it needs to happen. It's about whether that should or shouldn't, and it has to happen because you're also, again, retaining and maintaining a player that is at the best at his position, and it's in a very important position, especially for a defense like the Chiefs. You also had a whole offseason to build a team without Tyreek. That's true. KL368, you had a whole offseason to build a team without Tyreek. That's true, exactly, which is all the more reason why you don't trade Chris Jones, because you haven't had the opportunity to build a defense without Chris Jones. You haven't built a defense that has the scenario of what's life going to be like without him. You've been building a defense that very much tells me that you're building it with what's life going to continue to be like with Chris Jones. Ruben says, can't be cheap and expecting Super Bowls. That's the truth. That's 100% true, Ruben. Facebook user says, I will say, that's John Harrison again, I will say offer him 4 for 110, guarantee about 80. That's some high guarantees. But give him a $40 million bonus, an historic bonus. You hand him a check for $40 million. He might sign for $28 million. $40 million over 5 years, 8 per. Throw $8 million to 2027 when he's not here. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, when he's not here. Who cares if they're $8 million dead hit when cap is 325 to 350? Exactly, John. Exactly. Like, you have to look at the figures here of how low that dollar sign is going to be once the Chiefs' cap number is so ridiculously high. They're going to scoff at the numbers that they were giving Chris Jones because it's going to be nothing at that point. And again, if you're giving a guy a $40 million signing bonus, which is unheard of, because I think Orlando Brown Jr. just got the most in a signing bonus for an offensive lineman in NFL history. It was like 25-30. If you give Chris Jones $40 million in signing bonuses, I guarantee you he would do that, and he would sign on for $27 or $28 million a year, because that's still a great deal for him. Let's see here. Steve Harold. How does the team look with pads on? They look like a team that's ready to win another Super Bowl. And I'm not saying that lightly, but they look very focused, very, very pumped up. There's a lot of really good energy today, as there should be. And I will say this, that I'm somebody that is actually in support of what's been going on with Travis Kelce and some of these young bucks on the defensive side. You might not know what I'm talking about, but it's now back-to-back practices, and it's no coincidence that it's the two first padded practices that Travis Kelce's gotten into it with a defensive player. 2 days or yesterday, it was DiCaprio Boodle. That is a secondary member of the Chiefs. He usually is on the practice squad or a special teams player. Him and Travis Kelce, a few shoves here and there to the face masks. DiCaprio was clapping because Brian Cook tried to separate it, and actually Travis got a nice little swing on Cook on that one as well. And Cook's a second-year player. So these guys were definitely getting in Travis Kelce, the veteran's head, a little bit, and I like that because it fired up Travis Kelce, and that's a really good thing. And Travis even talked about it in the press game or the press conference afterwards about how that these guys we fire each other up. That's what teammates do. You're in the heat like this gross ass humid Missouri heat in the summertime, and you got pads on. You're getting hit. You don't want to get hit. You're not in the mood when it's this damn hot. And Travis Kelce got flustered. He got flustered again today when Leo Chenal, my dude, a guy that I think is going to be a breakout player this year, is going to make a big impact at the back of the end zone. Travis Kelce walked up and shoved him, and Leo Chenal didn't back down. I think that's awesome. I think it's awesome. I know a lot of people get worried and concerned when that's going on. I don't get concerned about that at all. So this team, to answer your question, Steve, looks like a team motivated and ready to go. These young guys look confident. KL368, colitis 6, Snead had a knee issue. Thank you for filling me in on that. I did not know the extent of that because, like I said, I was out there. I didn't hear radio or any updates. It's hard to get cell service too out there when you're with around 8,000 people. Then KL368, are you comfortable going into the season with MVS, Sky, Rice, James, and Watson? Don't think KT will be a full go in the beginning of the season. No. Everyone's rolling their eyes right now that have been around for a while. That's known my stance on this, KL. But I'll give you the genuine truth, man. No. I'm not comfortable at all because, as I told you guys all last week, all of you were in agreement with me about the Chiefs needing to upgrade at wide receiver. It was just in a different way. I was the guy that wanted the Chiefs to go after a veteran like D-Hop or keep Juju. They did neither. And they didn't draft a receiver in the first round like a lot of you guys wanted, which was, again, why I was saying it was ironic that people thought that now everyone wants to pretend that this wide receiver room's, good enough. But just, 4 or 5 months ago, people were saying that the Chiefs need to draft a wide receiver. They go get Zay Flowers or a guy like that in the first round. Well, they didn't do that, just like they didn't get D-Hop, and now we're sitting here pretending like everything's hunky-dory. No. I think that there's legitimate worry at wide receiver, guys. I definitely do. And I hope these guys prove us wrong. I hope Rashee Rice pops. I hope Kadarius Toney can stay healthy. I hope Sky Moore takes the next step, because if those guys can do that, then we're sitting here looking at a much better team. We're looking at a team that takes some pressure off Patrick Mahomes, because God knows he needs to have some of that pressure taken off. Our guy Brian Parrott, my suspicion is it's James Rice and Moore that Veach is preferring. Everyone else is a stopgap, placeholder, or backup. See also Noah Gray. See, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm confident that I think the Chiefs are going to maintain 6 wide receivers, go 4 tight ends, go 4 running backs, because they're going to utilize the running back and tight ends positions in the pass game just as much, if not even more, in the wide receivers. You remember, guys, last season, the Chiefs had Juju Smith-Schuster, who was by far better than any of the wide receivers they currently have at this time. And he didn't have 1,000 yards. He had 933, which is close, but he didn't end up getting to 1,000 yards. That is kind of where I'm at right now, and if I'm making a prediction, if I have to make a prediction, I don't think the Chiefs have a 1,000-yard receiver this year outside of Travis Kelce again. And it would not shock me, and I might make this a prediction. Don't pencil me down just yet. But I might say that the second leading receiver on this team this season could be a running back or another tight end. We saw Noah Gray really start to take shape at the end of last season, towards the end of last season. We saw what Jerick McKinnon meant to this passing game, and now we're seeing Denard Prince become even more of a part of a passing game so early on in his early career. So it would not shock me if the top 2 leading receivers for this team are Travis Kelce and another tight end or Travis Kelce and another running back. I know that sounds crazy, but the way that Patrick Mahomes shares the ball, and now they don't have that veteran like a Juju Smith-Schuster there or DeAndre Hopkins or a Tyreek Hill, he's going to have to start relying on other pieces because these defenses are going to really press these young guys and force them to get open and press man coverage, which is also a good thing, too, because the Chiefs are going to start utilizing the deep ball again because we saw the Bengals, we saw the 49ers and defenses like that force the Chiefs. They're pressing them up, press man coverage, and Patrick Mahomes like, bet, you want to drop the safeties? I'll throw it over your damn heads. So that will bring back that 2018, 2019, and 2020 style of football, which we all know deep down Patrick Mahomes wants to play. That's more of his style, is throwing the ball downfield. He's shown now that he can beat those defenses that want to huddle up. And if they keep doing that, and these young guys can create separation, you're going to see Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball deep a lot this season. Let's see here. Our friend Julia Gulia, she's back. Who in the wide receiver room gets bumped if Ross makes it? I think if the only person I think of that would, because barring injury, the only guy I would say, if all were healthy, that would get bumped if Justin Ross was to make it, would be Justin Watson, because he's the only guy in that room that I think isn't as talented as Justin Ross. Justin Ross makes it. It's because he's accessing his talent. It's because he's showcasing what he's able to do. Justin Watson is the man on the outside. He is the least. He's the least athletically gifted receiver on this team. He's just the least gifted receiver on this team, and so. He would be the guy, odd man out, even though ironically and almost hypocritically, I have him making the team because of the fact that he's got a contract that isn't big, but Chiefs gave him a multi-year deal this offseason. It makes me feel like they really want him and they want to keep him. It's Julia Gulli again. Do you think we'll see any trades during preseason? Now, this is interesting because I've heard some people theorize that the Chiefs could potentially trade for a wide receiver. If that was going to happen, I don't think it's going to be during training camp. I think you would see the Chiefs before the deadline make a trade for somebody. Who that would be, it's tough to say. You'd have to really line up the contracts. You'd have to figure out where, what the team wants in return. I mean, obviously, if the Tampa Bay Bucks, are like 2-4 or something like that, or 1-5, and they know their season's just about over before it really even gets kicked off, and they want to trade Mike Evans, who's on a 1-year deal. You better believe I'm signing up for getting Mike Evans on a rental, because that would be something amazing. If the Chiefs were to give up like a 4th-round pick or something like that for Mike Evans, or even a 3rd round, I'd give up a 3rd-round pick to get Mike Evans for a season. That dude's still one of the best receivers in the NFL, and he would change the entire trajectory of this offense and would take so much pressure off Travis Kelce. He'd be playing in a much different offense, but it's an offense that I think he could learn as a veteran player a lot quicker than some young guy. Let's see here. What else y'all talking about today? Our guy Brian says, I can't honestly thumbs up or thumb down on anyone until actual preseason contact. I can't choose based on a good or bad day of practice. In-game action, I know for a fact the opponent is going all out. Brian, I'm lockstep with you there, bro. That's why it's tough sometimes for me to gauge. That's why I kind of give you these loose translations of what I'm seeing, because I see potential of what could be in these scenarios. I don't think that you look at a guy in training camp and go, that is guaranteed to happen. No, unless these guys have already shown it, it's very difficult to predict something like that. I will say last year, I said that I saw in Pacheco a guy that's going to take a grown man's job, like he had said, and I said he'd do that by like week 10 or week 11. It was even earlier than that when Clyde went down. Now, granted, it was an injury that gave Pacheco that opportunity, but he took the opportunity and never looked back. We've seen guys do this throughout the history of the NFL. Once they get an opportunity, they take the job, and I think that's what Pacheco did. And I think that we could very well see that with wide receiver. We could see that at other positions as well this season as well. So these guys got to stay healthy, because you never know. You might not have a job here in Kansas City. KL368 says, how did Josh Williams look? I have him making a jump. It was really difficult, man, because like I said, by the time they were about to go to 11 on 11s, they called practice because of the rain. I will say that Joshua Williams, I've heard nothing negative about him, so that's actually a good sign. I saw DiCaprio Budo get a beat a couple times. It's like I said, it's hard to tell what these guys are going to be. But if I'm a betting man, yeah, I think Joshua Williams is going to take a step up because I think that he showed in his rookie season what he's capable of doing, and I think he's only going to continue to build off that because that confidence is something you can't replicate. Kale's talking about Nazi getting hurt. I was not aware of that, to be honest with you. I don't know the extent of the injury, but yeah, let's hope that Nazi's okay because the Chiefs obviously wanted to keep him for a reason, and I would like to believe it's because they think he can make impact on this defense and in special teams. Julia Gulia again asks, "Do you think Andy runs the ball more now that he knows what he has?" No, I don't think the Chiefs are going to run the ball more. I just think that the Chiefs just have more options at running back, and I think that the running backs are going to be utilized a lot in the pass game. I mean, Pacheco's going to get his rushes. I bet if he's healthy for 15 plus games, I think Pacheco rushes the ball for over 200 rushes. I think Deneric Prince gets another like 40 or 50 rushes. I think Jerick McKinnon's going to get his 50 to 100 rushes. I think Clyde could get himself, 30, 40 rushes. Like they're gonna run the ball because we all know that once Andy gets a comfortable lead, he loves to just kind of run the clock out, play it safe, play conservative. He doesn't like blowing people out or showing anybody up in his eyes. So the Chiefs will run the ball in context. But I don't think it's going to be at a different or much more noticeable clip because we know this offense is going to be based upon what does Patrick Mahomes do and what can he not do? Well, it's a trick question because he can do everything. And we know that this offense, even though they don't have star receivers at this time, it's going to be what Patrick Mahomes can get out of those receivers that makes this offense what it is. So although I don't expect him to run the ball more, I do expect them to run the ball enough to where it's still respectable, and you have to respect it, and you can't just sit there and sit back and wait for Patrick to throw the ball. Billy Hodge is back. Man, Billy, we've missed you, brother. Billy says, if Chris Jones' deal doesn't get done in 2 weeks, do they trade him? No. I don't think a trade is realistic, guys, because it doesn't help the Chiefs in any way in 2023, and I don't think Chris Jones is the kind of guy that's going to sit out a season. So one way or another, Chris Jones is going to report to camp, and he's going to play football this season for the Chiefs. So whether it is in 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now, it doesn't matter. Chris Jones will report eventually, and he will play for the Chiefs, whether with a new contract or with an unfortunate massive cap hit against the Chiefs this year. Chris Jones will be on this team for this season. I'm not even going to entertain the thought of trading because it just doesn't make sense. Let's see here. Our guy Brian, Ross being hot-handed might buy a whole point in wide receiver room rating, but it's still a 7.5 at best without a Juju. I agree. There's a lot for this room to improve because they got really thin, they got really young, they got really unproven. And I want to see what these young guys have because if they have anything that's worth mentioning and worthwhile, then this team's going to be in a really good place for a long time. Our guy Brian again says, I do feel that we are leaning towards getting the rush count per game back up around 20 carries. If that happens, Brian, I'm in support of it. Okay, I'm in support of the Chiefs establishing the run game more. You guys know that. That's not something that I'm opposed to. What I am opposed to, however, is the idea that the Chiefs are going to be a team that runs the ball as a point of dominance. That's not going to be the point of dominance for their offense. They're going to pass the ball and pass the ball and pass the ball. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, I think, had 648 pass attempts last season. That's a lot of pass attempts, and he's going to continue to be upwards of 35 to 40 pass attempts because of the fact he's also getting better. And I think that's where we're going to continue to see is this offense more pass game. And that's the cool thing, too, is that at least two of the running backs right now are guys that are going to catch the ball out of the backfield. I mean, we know that Isaiah Pacheco is a guy that's going to catch the ball and catch the ball frequently. He had 9 touchdowns. That's more than Justin Jefferson, who won Offensive Player of the Year last year. And Deneric Prince is a guy that I see as an extension of the pass game. I'm sure he's going to run the ball, but Deneric Prince is a guy that's going to very much catch the ball out of the backfield as well. And we know that Clyde, when given the opportunity, can catch passes. The man had 6 touchdowns last year before he got hurt. And Clyde was a catching fanatic in his college career. So, yeah, I maybe Pacheco isn't that guy, but I think in the pass game you have 2 to 3 options that are legitimate passing or receiving options in the running back room. Okay, Brian comes back with me. He says, Andy has a major poker face, as does Nagy. Something is cooking that we are all missing. They are way too happy about it. I mean, obviously, I'm hopeful too. And these guys know this game and know this team better than we could ever imagine. So maybe you're right. Maybe they really are being secretive about something. I don't know. Maybe it is just confidence. Maybe it's just because they believe that who they are and what they are and what this team's going to be. They just believe they're going to get the job done, and what they have is good enough, because if anything, we know that Andy Reid, one thing about Andy Reid's teams that you'll never have to worry about is them being undercoached. Or not prepared. They're always going to be prepared. They're always going to have guys that are out there willing to be coached and guys that are willing to make the sacrifices necessary. Julia Gulia again. I keep seeing clips of Karlaftis in pass coverage. Spags isn't going to stop that. Spags isn't going to stop that, is he? I didn't see that enough to get me worried. I did see it a couple times, and I've heard about Spags doing that in training camp these last couple of weeks. I don't buy, though, that Steve Spagnuolo is going to be sending Karlaftis into pass protection, more than 5% of the time. I'd be shocked. Karlaftis is a pass rusher. He's a guy that's simply out there to get after the quarterback and stop the run. I'd be shocked if we see him, chasing down Stephon Diggs. I'd be shocked. And I know Spags has been known to do that in the past, but I would like to believe that Spags is a guy that learns from his mistakes, and having George Karlaftis and guys like him running around there protecting passing lanes is a mistake, and it's a mistake I hope he would learn from. Our guy Robert, families fight, people. These are competitive dudes. It's not a big deal. This is in reference, of course, to Travis Kelce and Leo Chenal today, and then Travis Kelce a day ago with DiCaprio Boodle. Getting into a little skirmish, if you will. Like I told you guys, I actually love this stuff because it shows me that this team cares. From the young guys to older guys like Travis Kelce, this team cares. They want to continue to win. They're fired up. If there was no fight in these guys, they didn't give a shit. They're just out here collecting checks. You wouldn't really see fighting, or at least in this context, you'd see it in a different way where it's just out there. They're out there trying to hurt themselves. These guys are out here trying to get themselves hyped up and alert and ready to go for the regular season because they know teams are coming for them and they're going to try to get under their skin. So let's get that out of their systems now. Ruben comes back at me. Lance, so you think Ross not just hype? Look, I think that, from the beginning, I thought Ross was just hype. He was undrafted, a ton of injury history. His injuries were to parts of your body you shouldn't be having injuries to, especially that young. So I was like, I'm not buying into it yet. But then I see the way he's fought back, and I see that he's out there in training camp right now fighting for a spot. Man, I got nothing but respect for what he's done and what he's going to continue to do. I do believe that the Chiefs end up putting him on the practice squad. He'll probably get snatched up by somebody else because he's talented and he's showing it. But I don't think that his ceiling is wide receiver 1. I think his ceiling is wide receiver 2 or 3. I think he'd just be a really solid guy that can get you, at his peak 650 to 700 yards, and that's like at the peak. I want to see him put together a season first before I give him too much praise. But as it stands, I just like what I saw today. And like I said, if he continues down that trend and he continues down that path, he's going to make this roster because I don't think the Chiefs are going to allow him to go to this practice squad and let somebody else just snag him up, especially if it's an AFC team. Let's see here. Our guy Brian, been slinging the show all week. It's 11 a.m. Saturday. Y'all trying to hit my credibility, bro? Brian, I apologize. Let me clarify here. I apologize because I know that's something that you've been spreading the good word for us, brother. And we appreciate you and we love you to death for that. It is a coincidence, though, because this happened to be a week that I happened to go to training camp and go out there and hang out with the fellas and the ladies and go out there and watch some Chiefs training camp. This is a one-off, I promise. I will be back here next week and the week after that and the week after that and the week after that at 11 o'clock in the morning, and we will be doing our show early and often. So I apologize, Brian, and I appreciate you, brother, for letting the people know when to come and catch us. It's a little bit later today because, like I said, I was out there at camp and I didn't get back into Kansas City until a little bit later. So that is the only reason, my friend. Our guy Steve Harrell back at it. He says, do you think they should do a handshake plan with Blake Bell and cut him and bring him back right away after the Chiefs put Tony on it in the after cut down? That is probably a realistic scenario. That doesn't sound too crazy to me, honestly, Steve, because of the fact that we see teams do stuff like this all the time, and quite frankly, the Chiefs have done stuff like this in the past, probably with Blake Bell too. So I think Blake Bell's going to be on this roster. And they might do something crafty like that. And I would expect that they would do something like that if they had to keep Kadarius Toney on the team, or while he's going down, or while he's being put on the PUP list or something like that. If they absolutely had to do that, I don't think he's going to be on the PUP list. I think that Toney's going to at most miss a couple weeks to start the season, and then we see where his health goes from there. But to set the record straight here, guys, real quick, because I'm going to get to the rest of these questions here. I had a tweet of mine completely misconstrued from some people that I very much used to be in contact with, and I used to trust very much. Because Nate Taylor went on 610 this last week, and was talking about how, from his perspective, when it comes to Kadarius Toney and his return and all those things and where he's going to be at, you pay attention to where he's at Halloween to the end of the season. Halloween is after week 8. And so I put that out there on Twitter. I was like, look, guys, this is what Nate Taylor's saying. He's a connected guy, all that stuff, works for the Athletic. That's kind of worrisome to me. And then I posted the audio link, and a lot of people misconstrued it, said that I was saying Kadarius Toney is going to be out till week 8. That was never what I said. You can go check the tweet yourself. I never put it out there. But I did say that, according to Nate Taylor, it looks like Halloween's going to be when we have to really pay attention to where Kadarius Toney's at, whether he's on the field or not, whatever's going on with him. All we do know is that Kadarius Toney is going to be battling with that injury probably all season long, because it's a meniscus tear, a partial one, but it's something that doesn't just go away within a few weeks. Our Facebook user here, I think this is John Harrison again. Last year, Kelsey had 110 catches. Juju had 78. McKinnon was third with 56. Then MVS with 42. Obviously, Reed still wants tight ends and running backs to be vital in the passing game. That's the old school West Coast offense. It'll be more of the same this year. I 100% agree with you, Johnny. I think that's how it's going to go. I think that you're going to see a lot of spreading of the wealth, more so than probably ever before, where Patrick Mahomes has this one paramount piece and Travis Kelce that's going to get 150 to 160 targets, and then everybody else is going to get it divvied out, and that's how this offense is going to work. That's how this offense is going to click. I may not be the biggest fan of it, but that is where the Chiefs are at, and that's where they're headed. And let's just hope this thing works, man, because if it does, like I said, this team's going to click on all cylinders. Let's see here. Our friend Julia Gulia. If Andy showcases CEH during preseason, could that be a sign they're open for a trade, or is he a lock? No, I do think that if the Chiefs got a decent trade proposal, that they would entertain it with Clyde. Because to that point, the running back room is log jammed. My only thing is I don't expect anybody to trade for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because I don't think he's a tradable asset. I don't think he's a guy that you would want to trade for. There's a lot of pieces out there you could probably just pick up for really cheap that could probably give you the same type of production that Clyde does. And I'm a Clyde guy, but that's how I see it. I would be shocked if anybody out there wants to actually trade for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But if he looks good in preseason, like you're building this scenario off of, maybe they do. Maybe a team loses their running back and they're that desperate. If that's the case, yes, I could very well see it. But in a normal sitting, in a normal situation, I do not. I believe this is John Harrison again. He says, you throw to win, you run when you're winning, points come from the passing game. It's hard to disagree with that. All right. Billy Hodge asks, what is the biggest concern with the team right now? Billy, if I'm going to be honest with you, man, it's the protection from the left side of the offensive line. Left tackle, for me, is the biggest concern. I really think that Donovan Smith could be a pivotal piece to this Chiefs offense and the Chiefs season as a whole. Because as we know, in the AFC West alone, Donovan Smith and Juwan Taylor are going to face incredible pass rushers. So I hope he's ready for that. And I hope that he's ready to take on the responsibility of protecting Patrick Mahomes' blind side, because that is the single most valuable position in the NFL, in my opinion, outside of Patrick Mahomes himself. So that's my biggest concern. Obviously, wide receiver, it's something that I am a little bit worried about, just because of the fact that there are so many unknowns, there's so many variables to consider. There's no sure things in the wide receiver room. So yeah, I'm naturally a little bit worried about that. So those are the two things that pop off and come to mind. Let's see here. Julia Gulia says, or asks, any second-year players you're looking forward to? Yeah, so last week we were talking about this. My two guys that I had on the list were Oh, I'm sorry. No, So the two guys I had on my list were Brian Cook and Leo Chenal. I think those are two guys that are going to play a bigger role this year than they did last year. They started playing more as the season and the postseason started to progress. But I think this year you're going to see Brian Cook and you see Leo Chenal playing valuable minutes. I think that you're going to see Leo Chenal or Brian Cook being a full-fledged starter at safety. I think he's going to be earning that, and he looks good so far in training camp. But I also think that when you're looking at Leo Chenal with this linebacker room being elite, I mean, this is one of the 3 best linebacker rooms in the NFL right now. Leo Chenal knows he has to fight for his spot, and he was getting a lot of snaps towards the end of the season, especially during the postseason. He was playing a lot. I think that Leo Chenal is going to be earning himself a chance to play a lot more minutes than he normally does, and I think that's what's going to happen. He was one of my breakout players from the sophomore class. And our guy Brian Parrott. A lot of people getting spoiled on success. GK, George Karlaftis, I'm assuming, is keeping up with the DNs selected ahead of him, right? GK is a sexy beast. I'll make sure and tell him that you told him. Let's see here. Brian Parrott again. Is Kennard going to get it going or what? Actually, I was talking to Noah Groniger from Starcade Media today, and that was something I discussed. Is I saw Darian Kennard with the second team playing at right guard and at right tackle. So what he told Marcus Dash and and Jason Dunn on Chief Concerns podcast last year was that he was told by the Chiefs that they have plans to play him at right tackle. That's where he played mostly in Kentucky, and I think that's where he'll continue to play. The problem is the Chiefs just spent about $80 million on Jawan Taylor to play right tackle, so I don't know if that's going to actually be the case for Darian Kennard. Maybe right tackle if Trey Smith was to go down. But outside of that, it's a real crapshoot for him, and I wish him the best, and I hope he's all right wherever he's at. That he can continue to play hard, and because I mean let's be real here for a second, guys. Darian Kennard was brought in, and I thought he was going to be a starter. I thought that you look at this team, you think, okay, they're building a young roster around Patrick Mahomes. This offensive line is going to be built for years to come. You see Creed Humphrey's young, Trey Smith's young, Joe Tooney's not young, but he's not old. He's been one of those guys that can play till he's in his mid-30s, late 30s. And then you saw Orlando Brown last year. He was 26. You knew Andrew Wiley wasn't going to be a long-term answer, so I'm thinking like, oh, maybe they drafted Darian Kennard to be the next right tackle. Then they signed Jawan Taylor, and I'm thinking, okay, that must mean they got Darian Kennard inked in as a guard of the future. Sometimes these guys just don't get opportunities until somebody goes down. I mean, guys, if you remember, the greatest offensive lineman in the history of the NFL, the history of the Chiefs was Will Shields, and he didn't get his opportunity until somebody got injured, and then he never looked back. I'm not saying Darian Kennard's going to turn into Will Shields. What I'm saying, though, is opportunities sometimes present themselves through injury. Tom Brady, he knows that better than anybody. Drew Bledsoe gets knocked out of a game against the Jets. Tom Brady takes over and never looks back for 20 years. Guys just need opportunities sometimes, and I think Darian Kennard's one of those guys. That looks like it. No, we got a couple more. All right, I think this is John Harrison again. Maybe it's not. He didn't put his name on this one. If you're on Facebook, guys, just to put this out here, if you're not on YouTube, which I do highly recommend, so I can see your name and give you guys credit. But if you're on Facebook and you want to comment, and give me your name at the top or bottom of your comment, so I can give you credit for it. Because for some reason on our stream we don't get your name on through Facebook. But it says here, Facebook user, I'm with you, Lance. The O-line is the biggest question. Protect Mahomes. He'll move the ball and throw to anybody. If he's protected, everything will be good. Yes. As much as I harp about the wide receiver position, as much as I would love to have seen the Chiefs upgrade the wide receiver position, if I had to choose between upgrading offensive line or wide receiver, it's without question it's offensive line. We saw what happened in that Super Bowl against the Buccaneers when Patrick Mahomes did not have a single starter on his offensive line. He got his ass kicked, and the Chiefs got their ass kicked. If the Chiefs would have just had Eric Fisher or Mitchell Schwartz, if one of those two were healthy in that Super Bowl, I think the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, because that would have shored up one side of the offensive line, giving Patrick Mahomes just enough time to dice up the defense. But guys like Wisniewski and guys like that just simply cannot get the job done, and that is why the Chiefs lost that Super Bowl. So, yes, I would much rather the Chiefs shore up that position, shore up the offensive line every single year, and make sure that is the top priority than even wide receiver because, yes, Patrick Mahomes can sprinkle the ball around to any and everybody, saving Jerick McKinnon's career, for Christ's sake. I mean, Jerick McKinnon was a journeyman, injury-prone running back until he came to Kansas City. Now he's become legendary status, and everybody friggin' loves him. Has 9 touchdowns, like I said. I think that shows that Patrick Mahomes can get value out of anybody. I just want guys out there that are going to make his job easier. That's all I'm saying. Let's see here. Our guy Hassan L. Chick. I am so sorry if I said your name wrong, man. I do not mean to do that. I know, no disrespect. I'll just go with Hassan. Hassan says, do you think the Jets with Aaron Rodgers are the biggest threat to the Chiefs this year? Hassan, I really appreciate that question. It's a great question because I think the Jets have very much bolstered their roster. They obviously upgraded at quarterback. They are a very confident team, and I think that they're a team that I posted on our page this week actually that if Aaron Rodgers is all the way in, if he's locked in with this team, which it very much looks like that with what he did with his contract, giving up $35 million to the Jets so they can utilize some more money to go and get a potential like Dalvin Cook, which very much seems possible at this point. If Aaron Rodgers is locked in with this roster, I definitely think the Jets are contenders. Do I think they're the biggest threat? Not at this time. I don't want to give my predictions yet because I'll give my predictions in September. The show before week 1 officially kicks off. We do our full-fledged prediction show. So definitely be here for that one, man. But I don't think at this time, if I was going to say they were the biggest, I don't think they're the biggest threat yet. That my mind might change depending on, Joe Burrow's injury. If, the Bills, Ravens, guys like that, teams like that start having injuries in training camp. This is why I don't make my predictions until training camp and preseason are over because I want to see who's healthy and who's not and how I think those injuries are going to hurt people because, like I said, the Dolphins are a team I've been very much looking forward to this year, and it looks like their best defensive player, Jalen Ramsey, is going to probably miss the first 2 months and change of the regular season. That's a massive loss for them with his knee injury. So, but yes, I definitely think the Jets will be a good team for sure. They'll be a contender if Aaron Rodgers truly is locked in. Our guy Brian, I never looked at film to pick the guy to follow ever. Seen this pretty real and flashed me back to DT. Beginner's luck. GK is mine. You can have him, buddy. Julia Gulia says, I don't think we'll ever have a decent draft spot for a left tackle. So free agency, and if Donovan has a great or good year, do you extend? Well, let me answer that in reverse. I don't think even if Donovan Smith has an awesome season at his age, I think he's 30 or 31 now. I don't think he's a guy the Chiefs would extend just based upon the principle of what the Chiefs do, which is they don't extend guys that are in their 30s. That's just not how they do things unless you're like a unicorn one-of-one player, like I always say, like a Travis Kelce, a Patrick Mahomes, a Chris Jones. Those are the only kind of guys that would get extensions later in their careers because you just can't replace them. You can replace a Donovan Smith, which is why I do think it would either be in free agency. But see, free agency, you're going to have to spend a crap ton of money on a veteran player. And there'd be a reason why that guy's out there. So more than likely, what would happen is the Chiefs would have to do something a lot like what they did with Orlando Brown, where they trade, a first-round pick and they swap some picks with another team and go and get one of their, star young left tackles to play here in Kansas City. But I do think more than likely, and I was talking to Noah Groniger today from Starcade, and I know we're so far away from this being, our reality, but I do think that the Chiefs are going to utilize one of their early picks, if not their earliest pick, on an offensive tackle in this next year's draft. And this draft class coming up is supposed to be a little bit deeper at that position where it wasn't very deep this year, which is why I didn't think the Chiefs were going to go and get an offensive tackle, even if they were to be able to move up 6, 7 to 10 spots in the draft. I didn't think that was going to be a reality. But I do think that's going to be where they go. Even if they have the 31st or 32nd overall pick, the Chiefs are very aggressive throughout the draft. They can trade down, try to get in the early 20s and try to get somebody to swing heavy, swing hard at somebody. That is a possibility, but I do think it's going to be either you trade with another team or you utilize your draft picks to get a tackle and upgrade at left tackle. Okay, so yeah, that's where I'm at on things right now, guys. Some great conversation you guys have been giving me today, man, because I think that this is fun, man. You guys feel it? I mean, I'm out there at training camp today, and I couldn't believe we're really here. I'm so damn excited that we're here talking about real football, talking about things that are about to come down the pipe, man. I mean, we're right there, and I could not be more excited about football, to talk football with you guys. I know Trevor's excited to talk to you guys as well. He couldn't be here today, but he will be back here next week to talk about what we're seeing from training camp and what we're just seeing from the Chiefs as a whole, man. Because I do think that if I'm looking at adding pieces to this roster, I would like to see the Chiefs add a defensive lineman, an edge rusher, or defensive tackle. Guys that are out there like that. Like I said, I keep saying the same names. If Carlos Dunlap wants to keep playing football, would love to have him back. Yannick Ngakoue, a younger guy. He's not even in his 30s yet. I don't know why he's still sitting out there. Love to have the Chiefs go and get him. And mend the fences with Justin Houston, man. I think that a 34-year-old guy, being a guy that I think the Chiefs can absolutely use, a full circle situation where the Chiefs can, bring back a guy they drafted 12 years ago. And, they had falling out, sure. But you know what? You can mend those fences. It's good business. You guys help each other out, and it can be a full circle situation where he gets himself in the Ring of Honor, and he gets himself a ring, quite frankly. Because I think if Justin Houston comes here, that ups the Chiefs' chances of winning another Super Bowl. Yeah, Julie, I 100% agree with you. This season is going to be crazy. I definitely agree with you on that one because, my God, it's the AFC alone. I mean, we could talk about the NFC if you guys wanted to, but the AFC alone is a league of its own. And the quarterback position, and that's something I'm glad you brought that up real quick because I want to talk about this briefly before I have any more of you guys' questions or anything like that. And I'm going to take another. So I'm telling you, I'm in parched, man. I was out there in that heat all day, man. I'm going to tell you guys real quick why the AFC is absolutely screwed. If you look at the teams that the Chiefs beat in the postseason last year, started with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence was on a rookie deal. Chiefs beat him. Trevor Lawrence is going to get a contract extension after this next season. Then, obviously, we know the Chiefs went back home and had their revenge game against the Bengals. Joe Burrow was on a rookie deal. He's about a week or two away from becoming the richest player in the history of the NFL. And then the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl and play the Eagles with Jalen Hurts as their quarterback, who just got himself paid, who was on a rookie deal. If these teams were going to beat the Chiefs and dethrone them and take away their opportunities of more Super Bowl appearances and more Super Bowl titles, they should have probably done it before their quarterback got expensive. Because for the last 2 seasons now, Patrick Mahomes the Chiefs have had to build their rosters a little bit more creatively with Patrick Mahomes making his money. Now, the advantage is the way they structured Patrick Mahomes' contract to where they still had money to spend, and he took technically less, even though it was over $450 million he got. He technically took less on a year in and year out basis, so it wouldn't hit the Chiefs as hard on their salary cap structure. These teams like the Jaguars and the Bengals and the Bills and the Ravens and the Eagles, all these teams, they're going to be contending with the Chiefs for Super Bowls for the next 5 to 10 years. Blew their chances of beating the Chiefs at their best. I'm not saying that the Bengals and the Ravens and the Bills and the Eagles, they can't get creative and build good rosters even around expensive quarterbacks. What I'm saying, though, is it's going to be that much more difficult. And if you couldn't beat the Chiefs when you had a cheap quarterback and you could build these expensive rosters, what makes you think that's going to happen when you no longer have that luxury? Just something I wanted to throw out there. Our guy Brian Parrott says, next 2 weeks is going to be excruciatingly slow. God, I hate this part. Yeah, it's kind of like before Christmas, man. I agree with you. You just want to hurry up and get there. That's why I have that saying that says, wake me up when September begins, man. It's the opposite of what Green Day says because as soon as September hits, I'm in a good mood, man. Training camp and all this stuff's exciting. Don't get me wrong, but I want to get through it. I want to get beyond it because I don't want to see guys get injured. I hate preseason football. It's not real football. It's a dress rehearsal. I want to get through it, get through those 3 weeks of training camp, of preseason games, and get to real football, man. Could not be more excited about it. But I agree with you on that one, Brian. Julia says, gotta go. Great show as always, Lance. Go Chiefs. Julia, thank you so much for being here with us today. We really do appreciate you. That means a lot. The interaction was incredible today. I could not thank you enough. I am exhausted today from being in that heat. You guys have made this fun today. Could not thank you guys enough for being a part of that. So, Julia, definitely come back. Come hang out with us next Saturday at 11 o'clock, as my guy Brian Parrott likes to tell people, because I promise you that's when we do the show most of the time, unless I'm at training camp. Brian comes back at me. He says, I don't want to see Pacheco in the preseason at all. Thank you very much. Brian, I agree with you on that as well. I also think that Patrick Mahomes should never play a snap in preseason because he does not need to. He's practiced plenty with these young guys. Training camp, that's what that's for. I don't need to see him out there against these guys getting potentially hit. We saw last year against the Commanders, him getting absolutely pulverized in a couple plays. I absolutely hated that. I don't want to see Patrick Mahomes go out there and get unnecessary abuse. Same with Isaiah Pacheco. I don't know how long Isaiah Pacheco's career is going to last, but as long as it lasts, it's going to be fun. So that's why the Chiefs are preserving him. That's why he's wearing the yellow shirt and the yellow jersey out there. They don't want him getting hit. I don't think he's going to get hit all at training camp as his labrum continues to heal. Any news on Dunlap from my guy Brian Parrott? No, there is no news yet. It's going to really just come down to whether the veteran player wants to come back or not, whether he has that drive or not, because I'd be willing to bet if Dunlap's representation hit up the Chiefs would welcome him back gladly. It would be on a low one-year deal that wouldn't probably cost the Chiefs next to anything, which if you can get a veteran like Carlos Dunlap for next to nothing, you do it every single time, and I think the Chiefs would love to have him back. I would love to have him back. I mean, everybody would love to have Carlos Dunlap back. It's just a matter of whether he still has that desire or not, man, because he got his ring, got his 100th sack, got a playoff sack. Like, a lot of milestones, a lot of goals were knocked down for one Carlos Dunlap this last season. Maybe he no longer wants to play. I wouldn't blame him. 34 years old, he's done what he's done. Let's see here. Facebook user John Harrison. Hall of Fame game, Jets versus Browns next Thursday, August 3rd, 7 p.m. Football is back. John, you're not wrong. And I will be watching that because I'm a crazed lunatic that just craves football. And I will be watching all these backups for probably the next hour or two in that game. I'll probably end up tuning out or falling asleep because those guys won't be playing, or the notable players won't be playing at that point, and I don't have a vested interest in either one of those teams. So, yes, but I will definitely be watching with you guys, man. Brian Parrott again. Pat's the starter. How do the other two stack up? Is it skill level or just tenure? I'm assuming you're talking about Blaine Gabbert and Shane Buechele. Blaine Gabbert is 100% going to get the backup role, and they're only going to carry two quarterbacks this year like they did last year. Shane Buechele will be back on the practice squad. Maybe somebody stacks him off. I know the Chiefs didn't want that to happen last year, which is why they shelved him. I don't think that Shane Buechele is good enough to beat out Blaine Gabbert. And Blaine Gabbert's the bigger, more experienced quarterback. He backed up Tom Brady for the last few years. I think Blaine Gabbert has definitely won this job, and I think that's what's going to continue to happen. We saw Chad Henne be the backup for a couple of years for Patrick Mahomes. We know that Blaine Gabbert was the guy that replaced Chad Henne in Jacksonville, so I think that's what's going to happen here. He's going to succeed him as the backup to Patrick Mahomes from our guy Chad Henne. Our guy James Kirk. James Kirk says, do you happen to have seen TJ Houshmandzadeh and his take on the Chiefs not being a potential dynasty? I did see that. And all I'm going to tell you, James, is I've got it bookmarked. I have receipts. That's all I'll say. Let's see, Brian. Oh, crap. JTK punched a beehive. I guess so, man. Let me just put it like this, guys. Like I said, because I'll put that back up. Yes, I did see it, and it will be dealt with. Trust me, in due time. For whatever reason, and I'm not even saying it's wrong to say the Chiefs aren't going to win the Super Bowl. I'm not even saying that. If TJ Houshmandzadeh wants to put something like that out there, that's fine. But to dismiss the dynastics of this franchise, it's something I take note to, and I very much take personally. So trust me when I say that's been saved. But this has been great discussion, guys. I mean, the show's we're almost an hour and a half in. It's been great. It's been flying by. Definitely appreciate it. I think that you guys have done incredible work for us, man. Like I said, it doesn't even feel like we have to do the same type of show that we once did, because you guys make it easy. You guys give us what we want to talk about, and there's so much to talk about now. Like I said, because there's a lot of positional battles that are going on right now that we think that can very much go to the very end. Like, I would not be surprised if, the third game of the preseason, we're still trying to decide what wide receivers are going to get that sixth and final spot. It's a battle, and I like what I'm seeing from some of these young guys, and I'm not going to take away from anybody else. But I think that we're starting to see pretty quickly that Andy Reid has himself a team that's getting ready to go to become defending champions. Man, I'm really excited about it. But yeah, this is where we're at right now, guys. I'm going to leave it there. If you guys have any other comments, hit us up in the chat. Continue to do that. Subscribe to our show, guys. We'd love that if you guys did that. Hit the notification button so every time we go live, you will see that we go live. And then hit us up in the comment bar. Let us know what you guys want to talk about. Our guy KCDC says, great show. Thanks for the camp content. Absolutely, Casey. We appreciate you. Appreciate you being here with us, man. And we appreciate you guys every single week, man. It grows every single week. The first time we did this, we had some comments and it was awesome. We appreciated you guys. But after that, it was 30, 50, 60, 70, 80 comments. Man, we want that to continue to grow. We love interacting with you guys. We love hearing from you guys, and for you guys to ask us questions so we can give you our honest feedback, and you guys give us your takes as well. Our guy, Chief Concerns jumps in today. Lance is that. Yep, that is 100%. We've already confirmed this earlier in the show. Let me slide over a little bit. You got your B. Arthur. You got your you see my girl Betty over here, right here. Slide, yeah, man. It's the legitimacy here. I wanted to mix it up today, man. I wanted to show the people what I got in my Rolodex of teas. Let's see here. Our guy Brian says again, took my boys to hear the legender Bill Corum last night. I got picks. I've been forced to return. Okay. Appreciate the update on that one, man. Thanks for that, Brian. B. Arthur, outstanding. What movie? Don't be testing me on my show right now, Marcus. You know I know my stuff, dude. You know I know my stuff. I'm not doing this right now. We're trying to talk sports here, damn it. I guess it's my fault, though, because I'm sitting here distracting everybody with these beauties on my shirt. So if anybody that's out there that's like under the age of like 29, 30 years old, you probably have no idea what this show is. Just go back and look it up on some streaming service. You guys will absolutely love the show. Those ladies were absolutely hilarious. Airheads, of course it was Airheads. The Tone Rangers. Good times, man. But yeah, like I said, guys, this is where I want to leave the discussion right here, because I think you guys have given us a lot to chew on. But hey, if you guys have anything later on, man, we're going to be posting clips throughout the week. Get back on this get back on this video. Let us know what you guys are thinking, what you guys want to discuss, and we will definitely get to you guys. And I really appreciate you guys doing this for us, man, because this has been an absolute blast. I got up at 5 a.m. this morning, drove out there with Shaggy and Clay to go to training camp. Got a little rained out. It was hot as hell at the beginning, and I shot right back down to Kansas City to get here in the studio and do the show with you guys. I wasn't gonna miss it for the world, because I knew I wanted to talk to you guys very much so, and I'm very much excited for what's gonna happen here. Our guy Chief Concern says, great episode. CC just released our episode as well. Hell yeah. So hey, guys, if you're on here right now and if you've not watched Chief Concerns, first of all, what the hell? Second of all, go to Chief Concerns. Jason Dunn, the former tight end for the Chiefs and Eagles, and our guy Marcus Dash, who's one of the most talented and handsome motherfuckers on the planet. Dude knows what he's doing, and him and JD have a great show, an amazing show. I listen to it every single week. They just dropped their new episode, so after you're done here, guys, go shoot over there. Also, I know they're not a part of the Starcade family, but who gives a damn, because we have a lot of really good friends out here, all chiefed up as well. Marcus is good friends with them, JD and those guys. Chief Concerns does say that there is no JD this week, so it looks like it'll either be just Marcus. Maybe Tasia Dash will be on there as well. Regardless who's going to be on the show, they always have great content, guys, and I think that's the thing that we pay attention to the most, is giving you guys honest content. And Chief Concerns is one of the best out there to do it. Those are some of my best friends, and they make great content. We love them to death. Our guy James T. Curtin, Lance, next time can you ask Jason Dunn who was the better blocking tight end between himself and Blake Bell? I think JD is going to tell us it's himself. He's a very humble man, so he might try to give Blake a lot of credit. He might start off by saying Blake Bell is extremely talented, and he'll go on the diatribe. But I think JD will give himself credit on that one, and I would actually agree with him. Blake Bell's an incredible blocker, but JD was a part of an absolute wall with feet. He played a massive role in that offensive line and that tight end room being as great as they were at blocking. I'm going to give JD the absolute advantage on that one. Facebook user says, it's John Harris. Lance, you didn't sing. Thank you for being a friend. No, the shirt's singing it for me, man. You know what I mean? Like, I was hoping that the background music would be playing in your guys' head while I'm talking because you can see the shirt and you guys are seeing that. Chief Concern, love you. I love you too, brother. We appreciate you guys. Chief Concerns have been some of my biggest supporters here at the Spoken. We love you guys to death, and we appreciate you, bro. Can't wait. I'm gonna listen to your guys' show when we get out of here today, man, because I'm excited to hear what your guys' takeaways are on all things training camp. JD might be at the ACU. I don't even know what that means, Brian. Oh, man. You guys are awesome, dude. We can't ask JD that. Well, I will discuss it here, and I will say that my vote is JD. So, just for the record. I love Blake Bell. Love what he does for this team. We've gone, though, long enough, guys. We have one more order of business to get to. What is it called? Hold this L. Each and every week, we finish off each and every episode with a series of L's in the world of sports. Whether those L's are not so friendly or maybe even a little bit friendly L's in the world of sports, we promise you, who's ever holding those L's in the world of sports deserve those L's in the world of sports. I'm going to start off by saying this, guys. I'm going to give a W to Aaron Rodgers because of the fact, as I said earlier, we saw this man give up an historic $35 million in a pay cut. I've been one that has criticized him as well over the last couple of years for being a guy that I think has spread misinformation and has very much been a guy that's been deceitful and has tried to work his way around, being obedient to the way that the NFL had to go about things. I didn't really like some of the things he's done over the last couple of years, and I sometimes think that his leadership has been very much in question. But a change of scenery can do some good for a lot of people, man. And I think that's what's happened now that he's gone to New York and he's really bought into what the Jets have offered him. Not just monetarily, but just as from a roster standpoint. So much so that he's willing to give up $35 million to help them build this team even more so for the next year or two. And I think this is a really good rebranding that Aaron Rodgers is doing for himself. And I think that he needs to continue down this path because I think it can change his legacy as well. Because if the Jets end up becoming contenders and he has this goodwill on his side after this, things can change for him very quickly. You can go from a me-first kind of guy to a team-first leader kind of guy. That changes the optics from a lot of people, and it can change the way your legacy is structured in the eyes of millions of fans. So I want to give a W to Aaron Rodgers for that. My L is going to none other than Sean Payton. If you haven't heard, Sean Payton decided to come out and punch down to now offensive coordinator for the New York Jets, former head coach of the Denver Broncos, Nathaniel Hackett, by talking about how last season was one of the worst, maybe the worst coaching job in the history of the NFL. We all know that Sean Payton has now taken over the job as the Broncos head coach, and here's the thing. If you go and read Sean Payton's quote, nothing he says is wrong. I didn't disagree with anything that Sean Payton had to say about Sean Payton or about Nathaniel Hackett and the job he did. He was horrible. And I said it from the beginning of last year when I saw that the Broncos hired Nathaniel Hackett as their head coach. I was laughing about it because I couldn't believe the fact that this was the guy that they really felt was the answer to their problems. And then 2 whole months later, they go and sign Russell Wilson or they trade for Russell Wilson and pay him all this crazy amount of money. And you see that obviously Nathaniel Hackett was brought in to fill a spot, but there wasn't this optimism around Nathaniel Hackett. It wasn't until Russell Wilson came into town that things started to feel up and up for the Broncos, who had been missing the playoffs the last 6 years before that. And as bad as Nathaniel Hackett was, what's funny to me is that I think that Sean Payton even himself knows he's lying about this. He's being dishonest about his take on this matter because everybody wants to blame Nathaniel Hackett for what took place for the Broncos last year. And again, he didn't help anything. But just like I said, he was brought in January of 2022. No one was talking about that, oh yeah, this is the Broncos back on it, baby. They're on their way back. Nathaniel Hackett's changing shit. No one was saying that. No one. It wasn't until Russell Wilson got traded to Denver that people started saying, oh, Colin Cowherd started calling them the Buccaneers of the AFC. They were just missing Russell Wilson. And then they go 5-12. And then Russell Wilson has one of the worst seasons we've seen in a long time. They had one of the worst offenses in over a decade. If Russell Wilson was brought there to be the savior and he would get credit for being that, he has to be criticized equally for being the guy that brought them even further down. They could have kept Drew Lock for the same production that Russell Wilson gave them and saved about $200 million. That's the point I'm trying to make. And now Sean Payton's coming over here trying to convince himself and everybody else that he can fix this. But see, Russell Wilson's going to be 35 years old. If he was 24 years old, I could see Sean Payton fixing things. Because Payton is attached to who directly when it comes to his legacy as a head coach? Drew Brees. And he got Drew Brees at 27 years old in 2006. And his entire coaching career hinged upon having one of the 10 greatest quarterbacks of all time. That's not Russell Wilson. Now, I know everybody says, well, Russell Wilson and Drew Brees are like the same size. So like the same kind of quarterback, right? No. They literally could not be more different in how they play football. Drew Brees fit Sean Payton's West Coast scheme seamlessly with his quick passes and his timely routes, and everything was timing. Everything was methodical. Everything was perfectly orchestrated. It was poetry on a football field. That system was humming for years with Drew Brees as their quarterback. Russell Wilson is a moonball kind of deep throwing kind of guy, likes to create and extend with his legs, likes to, get crafty in the pocket. Well, we saw about 2 years ago, his legs started to give out before his hand injury in Seattle. His legs weren't the same, and it makes sense. The man's been sacked 531 times. That's the sixth most in NFL history. So yeah, at 5'10", 5'11", 215, 220 pounds, you're going to start to wear down a little bit. And now he's in his mid-30s. Guys, this is not going to go well for the Broncos. This is not going to go well for Sean Payton. And if we're being honest, Sean Payton took this job simply because of the fact that they got Walmart money. He got himself paid. And I don't blame him. But to sit here and go all the way back to what I was saying about how he decided to try to throw all this on Nathaniel Hackett, and then the worst part on all of it is once he heard Robert Saleh clap back, which, by the way, I wouldn't be fucking Robert Saleh. That dude looks like he'd kill you. He literally looks like the bad guy in 300, by the way. Go watch 300 and tell me that ain't Robert Saleh. You will find that I am kind. That's that guy. You just wait. You'll see. It's Robert Saleh. I wouldn't mess with that dude either. But see, what Sean Payton does, he starts to do the Michael Jackson moonwalk and walks all of his comments back. Because people, and it's funny too, because it makes them look bad. Colin Cowherd, Peter Schrager, all these people are saying, oh yeah, I thought what he did was awesome. I thought it was great, and all this other stuff. Dude, it was a mockery. It was a mockery. He made an ass of himself. He made an absolute ass of himself. And Sean Payton he even said it himself, I'm a veteran, I'm stepping in it. He knows that he fucked up in this. He should have never said those words. There was nothing good about it. All it does is put more pressure on him and puts more expectation on Russell Wilson. And I think that's hilarious. So for that, Sean Payton, do me a solid, brother, and hold this L. Good times, man. Broncos just can't get out of their own way. It's been a fun show, guys. Been a fun show. This hour and 40-plus minutes absolutely flew by. Today's been a fun day. Like I said, I got to hang out with my boys Shaggy and Clay up in training camp. I got to see my friends Kylie, Chuck, CJ, Brian B. Shine from Hot 103 Jams. Love that dude. Noah Groniger. Got to see him. It was an awesome day. Didn't last as long as I was hoping it would, but we got some good things in. We got some good young talent on this roster on both sides of the ball, and I hope it continues to pan out, guys, because I'm telling you right now, this team, if it all clicks, they're going to be even more dangerous than they were last year, and I'm really excited about it. But in the meantime, I'm Lance Twidwell, guys, and this has been an absolute blast. For Trevor Twidwell, that's on MIA today. We'll be back next week, 1 week's time, for the great Clay Wendler that puts all this together on the back end of things. I am Lance Twidwell. Episode 227 of the Spoken Podcast is done, finished, and finito. And until we're back here in 1 week's time to discuss more training camp news and potentially a Chris Jones extension, we out of this bitch.